battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds, getting so much resistance from behind. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, back from the dead, deep in the bowels of our underground layer where we're having more fun than a free alcohol giveaway to homeless in San Francisco. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Speaking of that,
yes,
I saw a commercial that somebody played of Gavin Newsom back in the 2000s.
Yeah,
talking about he was going to solve the homeless problem in San Francisco.
Well, he did. He brought them all into it.
Exactly.
Yes.
He increased it. It was.
How you
I'll tell you what, I'm doing great. You know what? I tell you, Gavin Newsom. I swear to God, he could look you right in the eye.
Yeah.
Lie right to you. He could be hooked up to a polygraph.
Yes.
Lie every second of the way.
Yeah.
And not sweat, not fidget, nothing. That guy can lie. I'll tell you what. I'll go back to Uncle Jesse on the Dukes of Hazzard. I wouldn't believe you if you swore you were telling a lie. One of the greatest lines ever.
I know. Now, I wonder if there was some way to do like a lying Olympics, and who would win that? Gavin Newsom would have to be in it. Michael Cohen would have to be in it.
Be in it.
Clinton would have to be in it. You know,
right. Be quite a few in there.
Yeah,
but they would probably be near the top.
Right.
You just got to put them close. So yeah, I mean Newsom though. It's Newsom against the field. In my book.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Michael Cohen, you could spread enough money around where he'd tell. He'd tell a lie to anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clinton,
I don't think he's as good at it since he was caught.
Yeah, and Clinton, if he wasn't talking about his marriage, I actually believe he's like half honest. He says anything about his marriage or anything, I know it's BS. Like, the only time I would believe Clinton is if he said him and Hillary slept in separate beds. I'd believe that. But other than that, I wouldn't believe anything. So that's all. Whatever. I mean, Clinton, another guy, man, just lie right to your face, and everybody loved it.
Man,
go figure, because honestly, having voted for Bill Clinton and then, getting tired of defending him and just to the point where I couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I really get how somebody can be sucked in by a politician. I could totally understand how it could happen. And granted, when I was 19, 20, 21, it was easy to go be a follower. And now it's like whatever anybody says, anytime government opens their mouth, I always think to myself, okay, what's the real truth?
Right.
Because it's not what they're saying. Because the more emphatically government says something, the more likely they're lying.
Right.
So,
I think of all the great sayings that yeah, they're true. Like, how do you know a politician is lying? Their mouth is moving, right? Don't steal from the government. They hate competition. All of these things that we've come to know and love over the past many years that we've been involved in the political process.
And I hate it. I hate every minute of it. But you know what? I've said this before, and I'll say it again, Jay. It's in my blood.
Yeah.
I didn't pick it. It's like some people are born and they're a great artist, or they're whatever. I was born to be in politics, and it wasn't my choice.
Right.
I swear it wasn't.
I believe that we are created with a certain bent. Like there are things we're just passionate about, and for some people, like you and me, we're justice people. We want to see the right thing done. And so I think that's a huge
And we see
reason.
how rare the right thing is done.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we fight for it because we care.
But you know what I would really prefer politicians to say?
Yeah.
When I see them rush back, this was 3 or 4 weeks ago. When I see them rush back to pass aid, billions of dollars to other countries.
Yeah.
Ignoring all the problems here. Mm-hmm. Border, inflation, gas prices.
Yeah.
You name it, everything's screwed up in this country.
Yeah.
College tuition, healthcare costs. Name the issue. And they rush back to pass billions of dollars for Ukraine, which I'm convinced half of Congress couldn't find on a map.
On a map of Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Russia, Ukraine. Give them the choice. See if they get it right.
Was it John Kennedy that said that? I don't think that half of these kids could find Ukraine on a map of Ukraine.
Probably.
I think it was him.
I know he was not happy with the vote. I know that. And, it was the usual 12 people who voted no. But anyway, they rushed back to pass all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'd prefer that they say? And I had to listen to the Speaker of the House, who I hasn't been on the job long enough for me to really. I go back to I think we need a bigger seat advantage, but whatever. I look back and you're talking about how great this is and how both parties work together. You know what I prefer he would have said? Again, pardon my French. I wish he would have said, I don't give a what you people think. We're going to go do what we want to. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, go blank yourself.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about that? That's what I would have rather heard. That would have been honest.
Yeah.
But to tell me that you're going to go print money, inflation, okay, to give to other countries, well, we all know what's going on here. And you're going to tell me how great that is and how you're protecting democracy.
Right.
Even though up Ukraine, they had democracy. No, I don't think so. Russia had elections and Ukraine didn't. Strange. So, why don't they just say, we don't care? We're not listening.
Right. Well, I don't know. And
I could respect that.
Phone calls, emails, letters poured in to Capitol Hill about this FISA issue and making sure that warrants were not going to be issued on U.S. citizens. They passed it. They acted like they weren't gonna. They pulled back, and then they just passed it.
And the media aided and abetted.
Speaker Mike Johnson.
Yeah, media aided and abetted as always.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the bipartisanship. Oh, isn't it great? It's just like it was back in the old days.
Yeah. Don't you love it when both sides get together and harm you? Yeah.
Remember that video of Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan telling knock-knock jokes? Isn't it great we're back to that?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody cared what was in it. Nobody reported on it. It's I don't know. I can't. This is why you want to know why people hate the mainstream media in this, and I mean hate, and people left and right hate it.
Oh yes,
and you'd think that somebody would wake up and go, how does Tucker Carlson have more views on his little website than the nightly news gets in viewers times like 10? What's he doing?
Telling the truth.
And having people on who don't get a voice and not spending 2 minutes covering a story and just moving on to the next headline.
Yeah.
Nobody learns.
Nope.
They don't want to learn. They just don't want to.
No, I mean, they're trying to protect what they've got. You know, that's part of the problem. And they're not willing to do anything that might shake that up, because then they lose power. I mean, you look at the stock trading. I mean, that bill came up recently too and has gone nowhere again, because they're all making millions of dollars from trading stock.
Yeah, any wonder how does a member of Congress become millionaires when they're there?
Yeah.
They don't make any more money than I do.
I know.
They're all millionaires when they leave.
It's ridiculous.
And I've said this before. We're going to get into college campuses in a minute, but one of my favorite ones, and I can't believe that the media picked up nothing on this.
Yeah.
I can't remember what college this was, but Hillary Clinton charged $100,000 to go make a speech at a college. You know what the subject was?
What?
The unaffordable cost of college.
So I love this. Our tax money goes to a public university. The public university takes our tax money, gives it to a politician to come
some
speak.
of them, I'm sure, if it was from endowments, but yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And then complains about the cost of college.
Yeah.
It was like nobody sees this.
Right. I tell you, some of the guys up there had the right idea. Some of these institutions, just stop funding them. Stop giving them money. And you know,
quite
and
frankly,
we'll get into
that should have happened
why,
40
but,
years ago.
Yeah, it shouldn't have taken what's going on
exactly.
today.
I mean, I'm not going to give credit to anybody who stops doing that now. You should have quit doing that 40 years ago. But by the way, I know the song.
Oh,
let's get back to it.
Yeah,
it was Buffalo Soldier or whatever. That's a Bob Marley song.
Yes, that
Springfield.
Yes.
Buffalo Springfield.
Yes. For what it's worth. Buffalo
I do like some of that protest music.
Yeah, I do
like some of it.
I do too.
What's wrong with it? I mean, it's good stuff.
Well, I'm writing some protest music now for this day and age because nobody's doing it. Speaking of which, I have to say, I'm sorry. We've been gone a couple of weeks. We've been gone more than a couple of weeks. The mainframe crashed here at in the bunker, and so in order to edit and
the government put some kiddie porn on Jay's computer.
No, that did not happen. No,
they might someday. Though
my
CIA
machine is clean, but yes, if it ever is on there, that's the government.
It was for sure.
It was for sure the government doing it.
Then
I'll
you know
tell
we're ruffling
right
feathers,
right? But I don't think they could. I don't know how they would do that, but
hey, leave it to them, man. They can do anything.
Yeah, I don't know about anything, but
maybe not your computer, but your phone. I think they could do stuff like that.
Yeah,
too.
I don't know how all that works.
I don't know either, but they've got everybody working for them.
Yeah,
look what they did to Tucker Carlson. They spied on his texts.
Oh, I know.
When he went to interview Putin, they confiscated something. I mean, it was just.
And with where AI is going, if you think that you're safe and they're not going to be able to just recreate something out of thin air and make you look guilty of anything?
There are apps now where you can go to any phone number and call somebody from a certain phone number.
Yeah.
If I wanted to take your phone number, call somebody.
Huh.
There's software that can do that. I guarantee you your government has it.
Oh, of course they do. Of course they do.
So, scary world, man. AI is the scariest thing to me. I mean, I am. You know what? You know what's funny? I am in awe of technology sometimes, and I'm very scared of it.
Yeah.
At other times,
right?
It's like I'm in awe of just in my lifetime what has changed in technology. Yet at the same time, man, it is a scary, scary thing where I think it's possible we'll end up going. Because, look, it's going to happen if it can be done. Government can't stop it. And, I mean, we the people can stop it. But that's about it.
Yeah, but we've already proven. I mean, people don't have limits. There's always going to be somebody that wants to break the limits. We had laws against gain of function, and they found people that were willing to go around the system.
Yeah.
Yep. Dolly the sheep, all that kind of stuff. And people will break those. That's why we have to have laws. I know there's a lot of people that think, well, we're just we don't need all that stuff. Our founders said that men are not angels, and therefore we need to have laws in order to make sure that civilization works the way it's intended.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary.
And so it has to happen with AI. It has to happen in the scientific realm. We've got to have these things in place. We just do. I mean, I have libertarian tendencies more than maybe a lot of people in some regards, but you have to have a minimum set of rules.
Talking about humanity here.
You have to have a minimum set of rules.
And I hate saying this too, but power is so concentrated in few hands.
Right.
And globalism has made it so that it is very difficult to rein in things globally. It's very hard. So if you can't rein it in, if I'm Bill Gates, I know no boundaries. I know no law. I don't answer to anybody, and I'll go to a different country and do what I want to. And so that's where to me it gets really scary. It's like the wealth is. I'm not sound like a socialist here,
right?
But the wealth and power is concentrated in so few people
Right.
that think they're the movers and shakers of the world that it's really scary, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked about it with the digital dollar and other things too, about how who's really in control of that.
Yep, and things are different than they used to be. John Adams said that our Constitution is fit for a moral and religious people, and would not work for any other type of people. And we've become a people that have separated themselves from God, and we think that we've got it all together. But that is exactly why we need those laws more than ever in these days.
Well, and that's where the divide is, though. Some of us have, and some of us haven't. We got a real crater of what we've done is we've outlawed God in the public.
Yeah.
That's really what the problem is. There's no moral compass in the public, and people privately have their own stuff. But what we've done is we've ripped. Put it to you this way: if you were in the 1950s, okay, religious Christian symbols would be everywhere. You didn't have to be a Christian.
Yeah.
But it was understood that Christianity, and I believe is the basis, is one of the founding things our country was created on.
Yes.
Now, the founding fathers were smart enough to say just because a religion's popular doesn't mean we're going to force you to practice it.
Absolutely. I mean, they even printed Bibles in the printing presses of Congress. However, they never forced anybody to believe.
Right. George Washington would bring one to the Constitutional Convention when he was the chair.
Yes.
And so that they did get strength from it and ideas from it. But, the repealing of God is one of the things that is bringing our country down.
Yeah.
Just constantly. Speaking of bringing down our country. Can I ask you a question?
This is
Jay?
going to be one of those kind of shows, huh?
Maybe.
Yes. Ask away.
What the hell is the president of the United States doing right now?
Sleeping, probably. It's
Okay.
like 9:20.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, at 10:20 over where he is. Yes.
You're putting your political opponent on trial. Basically
Yes.
putting you in jail half the week.
Yep.
You have a mainstream media that will do anything to get you another term. Anything.
Yeah.
I'm convinced Joe Scarborough would sell his children to get Biden another term.
Yeah.
And Joe Scarborough, you're a piece of garbage, by the way.
Oh.
Hate your guts. Anyhow. And yet this president, this entire week,
Yeah.
okay, we're doing this on a Tuesday night, has nothing planned, no interviews, no rallies, no meetings, no nothing.
Yeah.
Is he trying to win?
I think his people don't know what to do because he's so unpredictable.
Okay, you're going the exact direction I was going. Because we're going to talk real quick about the New York Times Siena polls.
Yeah.
Because if you go to 270 to win, and this is one of the websites I go to, they're a little biased toward the left. Because there's 5 main polls that they always average. NBC Wall Street Journal, who I don't trust.
Right.
The Bloomberg Morning Consult, what I don't trust either.
Right.
Emerson College, they're a little fairer. New York Times, who teams with Siena College, certainly a left-wing site.
Yeah.
And the CBS YouGov. Okay? Those are the 5 main polls they look at.
Yeah.
You won't find Rasmussen. You won't find Trafalgar. You won't find McLaughlin and Associates.
Yeah.
Anybody who even breathes to the right, you won't. Now, some of these polls are better than others. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
But those are the 5 main ones they look at. The latest New York Times Siena polls, which they pretty much are doing monthly,
Yes.
are so bad for Joe Biden that I'm wondering if he's trying anymore. Now, the Biden campaign spent $10 million in Georgia last month. Now, they're denying that, but that's what's leaked out. Some Democrat has leaked that out, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, that didn't come. The mainstream media is not interested in diving into that. And Biden has lost ground in pretty much every single poll, and the New York Times one has him down 10
Yeah.
in Georgia.
Goodness.
Now, I think there's a couple factors in Georgia that maybe don't play everywhere else. The Lincoln Riley case hurt bad. Biden's lack of empathy, his lack of problem solving. You saw President Trump all over that. Never missed a second. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't honest about it, because he is when it comes to the border and stuff. But he didn't miss a chance to go down and empathize with that family. Okay? The Fannie Willis stuff has become a joke.
Yeah.
It's become like the butt of jokes. And I really think that if you look at a state that's done a lot of election reform the past 2 or 3 years with ballot harvesting, that Georgia's made that pretty dang tough.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be, I think you're going to see Biden quietly, because the media won't report this, quietly pull out of Georgia.
Yeah.
And just go, I think they've already done that to North Carolina, which, by the way, I think could affect that governor's race, too, which is going to be probably one that, I mean, again, the Republicans can turn gold into pyrite, but I think that's going to be tough. Next state you go to is Arizona. Arizona, Trump by 7. 49-42. Now that's the Bloomberg Morning Consult poll. Also has at 49-42. Emerson College is a little bit closer at 48-44. Border killing him in that state. Another state he's not really going to or doing much. What do you see in Arizona? I mean, that state still worries me because
they didn't fix their electoral system. That's
of course
why.
not. They're not interested in it. I mean, Kerry Lake would have fixed it, but
the governor's the former Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State now just tried indicting President Trump on what happened back in 2020.
Yeah, Trump didn't get indicted, but his people are the fake electors or whatever they claim.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's your take on Arizona? I mean, that's a state that the Republicans typically win.
Yeah.
A weird.
Typically,
2020 was a weird year there. Do you think Trump is ahead by 7? Do you think he's ahead by a little less than that? Do you think? I mean, I'll put it to you this way.
I would assume that he's ahead at least that much. I think when you're looking at border states and the issues that are on the border, especially since Texas shored things up and it increased the immigration coming across the Arizona and California borders, I believe that that's going to be an issue that is at the top of every voter's mind.
It's hands down the number one issue there. By the way, the last poll showing Biden in the lead in Arizona was taken in July of 2023.
Oh, goodness.
Is that really a swing state when one guy wins 30 polls in a row?
Depends how close they are.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're looking at polls that are within the margin of error or close to it,
Trump is just outside the margin of error on this, about a 4-point something. I don't think Robert Kennedy be on the ballot there. With him in the poll, Trump's lead widens to 5.6. So Kennedy actually hurts Biden more.
Yeah.
In that, I think he does overall anyway.
Right. There's no Republican that should be voting for RFK Jr. He's just too far to the left.
The only scenario I would see is a never Trumper voting for RFK instead of Biden. I could see that happening, but that's about the only thing I would agree with you totally on that. Nevada, Trump 50, Biden 38.
Oh, goodness. 12 points.
Bloomberg had this at 51-43.
See, that's where I would not call it.
See, I'm concerned about that. Yeah, but I'm concerned because of the mail-in balloting there. But Trump has a lead by the lead with Kennedy will be on the ballot here. The lead with Kennedy is almost 11.
Goodness.
So, but for some reason that state I don't know, Nevada,
Well, it is kind of run by the mob.
Clark County. I mean, they typically run the state.
Yeah.
But I think that's another state. It's a union state. I think Trump's made inroads in that, though.
Yeah.
And I think the immigration's an issue there, too, and crime.
Yeah.
And I think that just the Dems just have no solutions there. By the way,
Yeah.
and then one of the points I was going to make is President Biden, in my opinion, between North Carolina, which, again, Trump's pulling ahead now pretty good there. Almost everybody has him outside the margin of error, and I think that's growing, despite the Biden ad buys have actually backfired.
Yeah.
I think he needs to win one of those 4 states.
Yeah, probably.
I'm skeptical that he can win without winning. I mean, everything else would have to break his way.
Yeah.
That one vote in Nebraska would have to break his way, which I'm skeptical of.
Yeah.
I think that the Electoral College is actually wider than what people are saying. These are the 6 swings. I get the gut feeling that's not true based on what I saw last week with Trump in New Jersey and Biden in New Hampshire.
Oh, my goodness.
Which just, Biden never gets out. And the fact that when he gets out, he goes to New Hampshire makes me scratch my head.
Right.
And I am convinced Trump could sell at the Rose Bowl every day if he wanted to.
Right.
I mean, do you see the Electoral College expanding? The light blue states are they in? And it's funny that they're not being polled.
Right.
That's what makes me wonder. I'm seeing no polls out of New Hampshire, none out of Virginia, none out of New Jersey, except the one Emerson one that got everybody flipped out. Nothing out of Colorado, where they tried to pull Trump off the ballot. Nothing out of Maine, where, remember, he won the one electoral vote there.
Right.
And then nothing out of New Mexico. I mean, am I nuts to think that that's being done on purpose? Because these campaigns internally do this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's probably true. We already know that the mainstream media runs cover for the Biden administration. I mean, we see it in everything.
They're an arm of the campaign.
And so if they start putting out bad poll numbers in light blue states, it's over. I mean, it's done. Democrats are going to stay home. They're going to become defeated, and they're just going to resign themselves to, we'll get it in 4 years.
Well, and what I've said to do is F Biden and just concentrate on the House and Senate in 2026. Because I'm going to tell you, this is why. You look at the vulnerable Senate seats right now. Every one of them is Democratic.
Yeah.
I mean, the Manchin seat, that's gone.
Yep.
That'll be Republican. Then you look at Arizona, Nevada, Montana, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Yep. All with Democratic seats up. Several of them are vacant.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm smart enough to know Republicans are not going to win them all. They couldn't if they were running unopposed. Republicans would somehow screw it up. But if I'm a Democrat going, okay, one thing if Biden loses. It's another thing if Trump wins with a huge Senate majority. Yeah. So I'm thinking, I got to stop that.
Right.
I forgot Ohio, too, which is another one that's probably all of those.
That's going to flip for sure.
I think so, too.
Sherrod Brown isn't going to win.
I mean, I don't think he's any chance to win there.
No.
So, I mean, it's bleak. And look, I still think something is still bound to happen yet.
Yeah.
Something's going to. But I look at it and I say, so what's going to change it?
I don't know.
You can't put Biden out there. You can't put Harris out there. The basement strategy's clearly not working. Well, what's the solution?
No, I mean, it seemed to work okay in 2020, but that was a weird year. It's not. People are going to want to hear a debate, and I don't think they're going to get one.
But it's not
people
just.
Are going to want to see the candidates.
It's not just that, though. It's that, I'm sorry, Mr. Biden, but you have an obligation to go out and face the voters.
Yeah.
The idea you're going to run for re-election, then you're going to hide the entire time.
Yeah.
And I think people are getting sick of that strategy. They're just getting sick of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you saw it a lot in 22. And see, I think Dems' strategy was to try to repeat 2022. We're going to lock Trump up. We're going to scream abortion. We're going to scream January 6th.
Yeah.
And that'll do it. It worked last time. I don't think people are falling for it a second time.
I hope
think
not.
they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, but the other part about the polls that I can't wrap my head around, Jay, is how is Trump up everywhere? How is he up among Hispanics, among young people, older people,
Black,
working class people, union households? There's some polls that show him at 50%.
The only place he's really not up is women, like suburban women.
Yeah, it depends who you poll. It depends how they word the polling.
Okay.
It's like married women, or they try to manipulate that. But I look at all that, I'm like, how's he not up by 30?
Right.
I mean, what? Something
is fishy. I think they're tamping it down.
Maybe.
Some of these polls maybe aren't asking registered voters either when you're looking at Hispanics or you're looking at blacks or you're looking I don't know.
Or you could be Quinnipiac and just talk to whoever answers.
Right.
Whether they're Republican, Democrat, white, black, independent, whatever. We called 1,500 people. Oh, well, I could do that. I mean, that's not
right.
A professional pollster. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's odd. Something's odd.
Yeah.
Now, I just before we get on to the college campus Israeli stuff, what do you make of the upper Midwest states? I mean, what do you make of Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania? I mean, Trump's up pretty much in all three states by something.
Yeah.
The polls are really weird. Wisconsin's the one state that I think is probably the most 50-50 in the country.
Yes.
And maybe Pennsylvania is number 2, but I something fishy's going on in Wisconsin too, because
right.
Biden's approval rating remains awful there, and yet somehow he's like down a point or tied, and I'm what? But I go back to 2016. There was no polls that showed Trump ahead. I mean, he outperforms the polls a lot,
right?
Which has to be something on the minds of the Dems, saying, "Okay, if this race is even, we're going to lose by 5." But
right, and I'm having trouble understanding how close they say Michigan is when there are so many 100,000 people in Michigan that say that they don't support Biden, like in the Dearborn area, Muslims and sympathizers.
The question is, what do they do on election day? Because you've got, obviously you can vote Cornell West or Green Party.
Yeah.
You could stay home. I don't think Trump they're going to vote for. I don't think they'd vote for RFK either. Do they come home to Biden at the end? Do they? Because I think this is going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does that play out? I am stunned at some of the endorsements he's gotten in Michigan. It's like, won't you car union people see who's destroying your companies?
Exactly. All your car sales are down because nobody wants EVs.
Yeah, I don't know that the rank and file are necessarily with Biden. I think the union leadership is, but
of course,
and the companies, because they're getting free money to build electric cars, even though nobody's buying them, they're still getting paid.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I'm confused by what I see in Michigan, and for some reason, Pennsylvania has me on edge. I don't trust that state. I don't trust the big cities there. I do think Trump's ahead in that state, but I
don't trust Philadelphia at all.
I don't, but I'm going to tell you that state's Biden's Waterloo.
Yeah.
There's no scenario in which he wins without Pennsylvania.
Right.
There's zero. Especially if you give Georgia and North Carolina to Trump, which I am already. You had Pennsylvania. He's already over 270.
Right.
So it's over at that point. So
So how many of
Remember,
these?
Biden's a Scranton native.
Right.
Remember that.
Right. Well, he plays that up. I mean, he's been in Delaware a long
Scranton
time.
native. I think he visited. I think he drove through there or something like that.
He took the Amtrak through there. Oh, goodness.
I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, so what are some of the scenarios when you look at, because a lot of these, if not all of these battleground states are ones that Biden won in 2020. He didn't crush Trump. So how many?
My God.
How many of these have to flip Trump's way before there's no chance for Biden to win?
Okay, let's assume. I'm going to assume something right now.
Yeah.
Because I think Trump has North Carolina, Florida, Ohio.
Right.
I don't think they're going to be contested.
Right.
That puts him, and then with redistricting from 2020 to 2024, actually adds, I think it's 4 electoral votes to Trump without doing anything different. So if you give him every state that he won in 2020, that puts him at 235 electoral votes.
Okay.
You add Georgia, which is 16, that's 251.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania with 19 is 270.
Yeah.
It's already over. Okay, if you give him Georgia at 251, you add Nevada, which is 6, Arizona, which is 11, he's at 268.
Right.
And then I talk about the one seat in Nebraska that I think he'll take back, that he won the first time and lost the second time.
Yeah.
That puts him at 269. So he's right there.
Yeah.
So he would only need to win one. I mean, hypothetically, I'll assume Republicans lose the House, which I don't think is true, but I'll just assume that happens.
Yeah.
He needs one more state to put him over the hump from 269.
Yeah.
Now, there's other scenarios too. You know what? That's why I say Biden has to win Nevada, Arizona, or Georgia. He's got to win one of those.
Yeah.
So the scenario that I see is, I think those states are all going to go Trump, and I don't see where, even if Biden sweeps the Rust Belt, which I can't see. I mean, look at in 2020, he won Wisconsin by 10,000 votes out of 3 million cast.
Yeah.
His approval rating there is probably 20 points lower right now. How does he turn around and win that state?
I don't know.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is it's the Dems churning out the vote in Madison but I don't know that that's going to work this time.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could. I mean, Tony Evers got reelected, but then again, so did Ron Johnson.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you again, it's the most 50-50 state in the country right now is Wisconsin.
Do you think, now it worked in 2022, I don't think it's going to work this year because of how bad everything is across the board. I mean, Biden's throwing up a ton of abortion ads, making that like his issue, and I think in some of these places. And I don't see that when people can't afford to buy groceries or gas, that is what's going to make them turn out to vote for him.
No, I don't see it in the presidential race. If this were a governor's race, if it was a legislative race, look, the truest test of that is Arizona, where there's a total abortion controversy there, and yet Trump's lead has widened during that time.
Yeah.
I mean, because like you said, the issues of the border and the economy are trumping the quote unquote trumping, that issue. Do I think abortion will play a factor? On the fringes. I think it ups the fundraising. I think it rallies maybe a handful of groups that are waning with the president.
Yeah.
But I also think that it alienates some people who say, okay, we heard you on abortion last time.
Yeah.
We have other issues that are, a bigger deal right now. And, If you're 60 years old, what do you care about abortion? You care that you can retire. You care that, you got health care. You care that,
Yeah.
I think if that was going to happen, it would seep into that already. When you see the Biden campaign spending millions of dollars in Georgia and North Carolina, and then you take polls a month later and they're down by more,
Yeah.
it just tells you that wait, maybe that's not working.
Yeah.
So, and this whole thing of protecting democracy, I'd be shocked
Nobody
I'd be
buys that.
shocked if they even mention that anymore.
I mean, that cannot be polling well. I don't think that anybody buys that. I mean, really, I mean, we're a republic, and maybe democracy going away would be a good thing, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what a democracy looks like right now.
Well, I mean, look at
We don't live in one.
No, nor should we.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is that I don't know who's running the country.
Right.
Nobody's listening to me. So I
Well,
don't
I'm
know.
sure it's Obama's and Clinton's people that are running the country.
Probably, although you wouldn't know that from listening to David Axelrod lately.
Well,
I mean, he's a bigger critic than half the Republicans in Congress are right
Yeah.
now. I mean, I hate to agree with him. He's right in some
so
respects.
is Bill Maher lately.
Exactly. I mean, Bill Maher's actually, he's a better spokesman than the president is. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how pathetic it is.
I mean, and I don't think we covered this. Like on the abortion issue, he actually came out and said, "You know what? These people actually do believe it's murder. They're not demagoguing.
Yeah.
And I believe it is murder, and I'm okay with it." That's what he's
to which I could disagree more, but
right.
but Maher's not a phony when he talks about it.
Right.
So, yeah. But I just look at when I look at this race, I look at it like, okay, why am I still on pins and needles?
Yeah.
And the only reason that I'm on pins and needles is I feel like either Trump's going to get assassinated or Biden is.
Well,
I feel
let's
like
hope it's neither.
I know I would never hope on that, but I think the Democrats' best case scenario, and boy, this is rough to say, is that Biden dies, takes Harris with him, or Harris gets pregnant, or what, I don't know.
Good luck with that.
And then and you have to scrap this whole thing. What's the you tell me what's going to turn around, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
He's not going to do anything on the border.
Nope.
Nothing's going to turn around in the economy.
Nope.
Congress isn't going to pass anything.
No.
So you're stuck with what you have. And the American people have made up their mind on Bidenomics. They've made up their mind. It's not changing. And I'll tell you what, you wait till gas is $4.50 a gallon around July.
Yeah.
And we'll see
it will go up.
We'll see what the polls say then too. And Biden, go buy an electric car for $100,000. That's his answer. I mean, there's nowhere for this to go. And I don't care if the Fed cuts an interest rate. What's that going to matter?
Right.
Okay, it went from 7.7 to 7.6.
But here's the
we're
problem.
doing good now.
If they don't raise the interest rates, they're not going to get inflation under control, and it's going to hurt spending because prices are going to continue to go up if they cut interest rates.
Well, but here's the other part of it. They really should be raised again, because you've got to get government to quit printing money.
That is the only way that Reagan pulled us out of the same garbage
back
that was
in the
happening in the
late se- I know.
70s. That's the only way they can do it.
It's going to have to be Trump's first budget next year, where this just gets. He's going to go in.
Interest rates are going to get ugly.
He's going to go in with.
They have to.
He's going to go in with a chainsaw. He's salivating
Yes.
to go in there.
Department of Education,
Yeah.
gone.
He's just-
CIA, gone.
I know.
FBI,
You just
gone.
wait till
Yeah.
everything he didn't declassify in
Yeah.
his first term is going to be declassified
I
on
know.
January 21st.
I know. Everything is going to get declassified.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's going to just. let it all go.
Oh my word! It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be a bloodbath.
It'll be great. I think it'll be great.
It will be. And and I wonder if that's what he's going to use Vivek Ramaswamy for. If Vivek's going to come in there and he's going to confer with him about what to cut, because Vivek has really good ideas about what can be cut and how to do it. And I think if those two work together.
I've said before that I think Vivek ends up in the cabinet.
Yeah.
I think Tulsi ends up in the cabinet.
Yeah.
Doug Burgum probably ends up in the cabinet.
Yeah,
and,
I don't know why.
Well, I think he could be a Secretary of Agriculture or something like that.
Maybe he could do that.
And then I think that, although I don't like taking all the governors that are doing stuff, but anyway, and I still pick DeSantis for Veep, although I wish Trump would announce it. I wish he would announce it now. And let me tell you why. Because of this sham trial going on.
Yeah.
They got to be out there. His Veep could be out there campaigning every day.
Yeah.
And that would be the one thing, although look, nobody replaces Trump. Nobody out Trumps Trump.
Yeah.
But Trump can do his act in New York and just take advantage of. I mean, it's almost like he's loving it.
Oh, I think he is loving that part.
The firemen come by, and I think he's just loving that part. But at the same time, he
loves New York.
He does love New York. But at the same time, the Veep candidate could be out in Nevada or out in Wisconsin, and I just think that he doesn't have to do it, but I just think that he could be up by another 5 points if it was just a constant pounding, all the time.
Yeah.
So, but maybe, I don't know. I think he's made the pick. I think he's just.
Really?
I do, because Trump's a master of. He's got so much better political instincts than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a plan to roll this out. He knows who he wants, when he wants, and I think it's it'll happen. I originally had thought by the end of this month. Now the convention is only 2 months away. It's July 13th or something like that.
Yeah.
The Democratic one's not till like August 20th. But
I know Minnesota just had their CD level conventions.
Yeah, their state one is next Saturday, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
So, I mean, it's probably going to come out in June, I'm guessing. But I think they already. His campaign is so much better and disciplined and organized. Better now than in 16 or 20. You know what I mean? He's way, way better in both.
I think it's funny that all these lists, these short lists, keep coming out of the Veep candidate, and nobody has talked to him yet.
They might be under orders not to say anything.
Yeah.
It's funny how somebody goes to Mar-a-Lago for a weekend and all of a sudden somebody releases a new short list.
Yeah.
That's coming from somebody. Could be Trump playing the media, for all we know. Keeps him in the news. And keeps everything.
If there's one thing he's excellent at, it's that.
Yeah, he plays them like a fiddle. So I mean, I don't know. What's your prediction? You still have a favorite?
It was Kristi Noem for a long time, but after all this stuff with the dog and
what was she thinking?
I don't know why she put that in the book, and
still like her.
I do too, and I understand why she did it based on what she said, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. However, the media has again twisted it and turned it and ran with it.
Well, I think
it has hurt her.
They see her as somebody they've got to knock off.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Right.
They don't want a woman running with Trump. That's something they don't want.
Right.
So, but I don't think Trump believes in checking boxes. I don't think he's going to pick based on
But he'll
that.
make a good business choice.
He will.
It's not about checking boxes. It's about seeing what's my need and how do I strengthen that weakness.
Yeah, that's how Mike Pence got picked the first time. So, I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I know there's been thoughts about other women. I don't think he puts Tulsi Gabbard in because she's not going to be the next Republican candidate for president.
Right.
And
she'd be great in a cabinet role.
They've got to shore that up.
She's a good surrogate too for the campaign.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, I don't see it.
I don't either.
Too new as a governor.
Young children at home. I don't see that either.
Yeah. So I don't know. And then Elise Stefanik from New York was at the. Yeah, she's still kind of an unknown. I don't see that. Her profile's raised some, but
she's done great on some stuff.
Yeah.
And I think she's a 10 years from now person.
Yeah.
And probably not ready for that role.
Right.
Because here's the thing. First thing Trump's Veep candidate's going to get asked about is what? January 6th. Who won 20?
Right.
That's all the media is going to want to know.
Right.
And so that person's got, that's why I say DeSantis is the guy, because DeSantis is vetted. He's he's turned a purple state red, and he's not going to let the media mumble and fumble and screw with what he says.
And if he would be the heir apparent going in 4 years from now.
Exactly.
And he would be a 2-term president almost for sure.
Yeah, and I already think he's the heir apparent.
I mean, imagine 12 years.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think Trump has to think that way. He has to think, okay, who can succeed me?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think Stefanik is out. That's where I think,
Yeah.
I don't see her succeeding Trump.
She's just not strong enough.
Or not ready. One of the two.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Do you think Trump and DeSantis have buried the hatchet pretty good?
I think so.
I mean, they've been fundraising. A lot of DeSantis' fundraisers have gone to Trump now.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a real possibility? I mean, do you think DeSantis is really under consideration, or?
I hope so.
Yeah.
And I think he might, because you don't hear anything about it. Right? All the focus is on Tim Scott. All the focus is on Tulsi Gabbard.
It's all on the box checking. That's what the media is obsessed with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think I agree with you. I don't think Trump cares a lick about that.
No.
So
he knows how popular DeSantis is, and for him to take DeSantis on, I mean, I think, it's a lot of the same people, but I think there are people that like DeSantis that don't care for him necessarily. I think it's a good choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of a negative that DeSantis has. And I don't think it matters anymore what state you're from. I think that means nothing anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, what state did Dick Cheney bring to George W. Bush?
Nothing.
What state did
Wyoming?
What state did Joe Biden bring Barack Obama? I mean, I think that's old thinking. I don't think people vote for vice president. You need a strong, competent person who can take over the reins. And that's what you need. And say what you want about Mike Pence. I think he could have taken over had something happen. I disagree with Mr. Pence on a couple things. I respect him. Disagree with him on a few things. That's fine. But I think he was a decent governor, and I think he could have done okay had he had to.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, all that matters. By the way.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the...
We should probably, an hour into the podcast, talk about what we're going to talk about.
Well, we're having fun.
Yeah.
We haven't seen each other in a while.
Well, that's true.
Boy, Jay, your kids aren't in college anymore, are they?
No. My older two are not in college.
Yeah.
They're in careers. The younger one is not anywhere near college.
So
thank goodness.
What do you make of what is going on right now? Not just this Israeli Hamas stuff, but just at college, generally speaking. I mean,
I've been pretty down on college for a long time. In fact, with my older two, I got them in North Central University, which is a Christian school. Mm-hmm. Even with that, there's a lot of Christian schools that I'm not too happy with. Chris Fink came from Bethel University, who we all know under a different name.
Won't say it out loud.
Yeah. No, it's fine. But there's definitely some problems at some of these Christian universities as well. And I've always told my kids, only go to college, really, if you think you need to go to college for what you want to do. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go to college. You can go to a trade school. You can take an apprenticeship. If you're doing something like music, maybe you go to a music school rather than going to a 4-year college. My daughter was a marketing major, and so I think that there is no greater waste of money than to put into a university that is just going to indoctrinate your kids and turn them into social justice warriors.
Well,
and there's so many kids that go in having faith and they leave the university not having faith and totally confused.
Wow.
And it's a travesty. Why send your kids to that kind of place?
And here's the thing, aren't you supposed to go to college to get skills to compete in a global working environment? What is your faith? Why do they attack faith? I mean, what business is it of theirs? I mean, here let me ask you something.
Yeah.
They attack faith, yet look at what's going on with these protests. I mean, discriminating against people based on their faith.
Oh, yeah.
But one faith seems to never get discriminated against.
Yeah.
I mean,
surprise.
I mean, I think look, this has been brewing for decades.
Yeah.
This isn't something that has happened in the last couple of years. I mean, it seems as though things have gotten more radical more quickly.
Yes.
But it's been brewing for a long, long time. You go back to war protests in the 60s and this stuff was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have the DEI. They didn't have the stuff like that going on. But I'm with you. I don't know. If I had a kid, I don't know what I'd tell them to do. Because I ain't cutting a check to one of these universities. No way.
Right.
And I don't want them to go in debt to one of them either. I mean, 1 year at Columbia is more than the average person makes in a year.
Yeah.
Why would your kid go there? Why?
Yeah, because if you want to be a big-time journalist, if you don't have Columbia on your resume, that
or
means,
Northwestern.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I just, and you know what really ticks me off are these big wigs who send all this money who are like now upset.
Yeah.
Like, where were you 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
These radical professors, did they just get hired last week?
These places have been littered with communists for decades.
And it's okay to be a communist.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say that straight out.
But when that's all that you have and that's the only vantage point that's getting
what
sold
about
to
diversity?
You got to teach kids how to think. I don't care what your belief system is if you're teaching kids how to think rather than what to think, and that's the problem.
So let me come at it from this way. What's your reaction, though? Let's just get back to the protests for a minute, because these obviously are not spontaneous. They are planned, they're organized.
There Antifa is all throughout these things. You see the black umbrellas, and they're dressed in black, and
they're hiding their faces.
Oh, yeah.
And so on and so forth. And of course, the media, no care in the world to investigate that.
Of course not. Why would they do that?
But why is it happening? Why is it being allowed? I mean, I listened to DeSantis talk the other day. He goes, "These ain't going to happen in my state."
And he's made good on that.
Yeah, and I mean, and I love Kathy Hochul's line. Well, I can't do anything because nobody's called me.
What?
Like, oh, okay. So that's nice to know. I can do anything I want to in New York. You're not going to do anything unless somebody calls you.
You know,
even
what?
Then you might not.
If I was the governor, and that was, and it was happening at the U of M on a lesser scale.
Yeah.
There was an encampment there. If I was the governor of Minnesota, I would be on the horn to the person in charge of that school. I would be calling the dean of the University of Minnesota saying, dude, or dudette, whatever. What's going on? This is not okay.
Yeah, I would say you get this under control or I'm gonna.
Yeah. Yep.
Take your pick.
I have control over the National Guard. You don't want me to do that. You work with the city to get this under control.
And what other protests would anybody negotiate with? I've said this before. If the KKK had an encampment at a college,
right.
I don't think the president would sit there for a week and negotiate a surrender.
Although, in this day and age, they might be okay with that too.
It's possible.
I don't know.
I have no idea. But I mean, you know, I want to say something too, because Michael Moore made some of the dumbest comments that I've ever heard a human being make.
And that's saying something coming from him, because he's made a lot of them.
He's made a lot of them, even though he predicted Donald Trump's victory.
Yeah.
But he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, oh, they have a right to do this. They have a right to take over the campus. They have a right to blah, blah, blah. And I'm
no, they don't.
What?
They don't have a right to do anything.
Well, I got a right
Except
to take over your house or McDonald's or
right.
wherever you're at. I mean, what are you talking about?
They have a right to come and eat your Big Mac.
It's criminal trespass.
It is. They do not own that property, and they are, through terrorism, taking over a property, threatening another group of people, and making it so that the people who are paying for a service are not getting the service that they pay for.
Right. And here's the other part of this. If they were protesting black people or gay people, this would be classified as a hate crime.
Oh, absolutely it would be.
If it's Jewish people, it's well, you know, it's just words. You know, we got to look at the context. We got to we gotta have a conversation.
And this is where I love the Jews, because they are the ones who were the genesis for the faith that I have. Now, there's a whole bunch of Jews that I am not understanding what's going on, because it's one thing. I agree. You can disagree with the government of Israel and what they do or don't do, but yet if you don't have that context of understanding that these people want to take away their homeland, they either want to kill them or push them out so that they're dispersed into other countries. However it works, fine, that's what it means, from the river to the sea, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, push them out, right? That's what it means. Mm-hmm. So, based on that, there really is no other way to take that. If you're Jewish and you think it's just about Israel, then you're not listening, right? Because these students at these campuses are threatening other Jewish people.
Yes,
they are harming other Jewish people. They are making death threats to Jewish people, not Israel. It's not just about Israel. And yet you are supporting Joe Biden and a Democrat Party that is allowing for this, supporting this, and it would be like if the Jews in the 1930s of Germany were supporting Adolf Hitler. Why?
Well,
and I mean the early 30s, before he started killing people. Right before the whole Kristallnacht thing, before all of that, there was still plenty of reason not to support him back then because of the rhetoric. And because the rhetoric went unchecked, look what happened. Our rhetoric is going unchecked today.
Yeah, and I remember sitting here a month or two ago saying, you just watch. It'll get worse. Number one, if Biden plays both sides, which he's tried to do. And number two, if this stuff does not get stopped at the beginning, it will grow and grow because you are enabling.
Right.
And that's exactly what's happened at Columbia. Columbia decides to cancel their commencement. Imagine if you paid all that money to go to Columbia, or you earned scholarships to go there.
Yeah.
And you can't have your commencement ceremony because your university, or wherever the commencement takes place, or refuses to kick out a bunch of lunatic protesters.
Most of whom aren't even going there.
Yeah, no.
Or at least half.
A lot of them aren't.
Yeah.
They're professional protesters. This is what they do.
Yeah.
And your university is full of such wimps that they just acquiesce. Oh, okay, we'll avoid it.
Yeah.
I mean, I throw my arms in the air. It's like watching the riots here in Minneapolis in 2020.
Exactly.
You're just standing back, letting them happen.
It is exactly the same thing. How long at the UCLA riot, whatever, did it take for the head of UCLA to do something? And we never heard from the mayor of UCLA or the mayor of Los Angeles. Never heard from Gavin Newsom. Here, it got to a point where Passover was done, and after the last night of Passover, a bunch of Jewish students showed up, and they tried to fight back because they were sick and tired of it, sick and tired of being harassed,
but that's
sick and
bound
tired
to
of being
happen.
threatened, and it got very close to breaking out into an all-out war.
And you know what's going to happen? A Kyle Rittenhouse situation.
Yes,
that's the next step. Somebody's going to get killed.
No
doubt about it. It's like the open border. A Lincoln Riley was bound to happen.
That it didn't explode into that was
I know we were lucky.
a miracle.
It was just lucky that it didn't have. They must not have had weapons on them or something. But I'll tell you what, one shot gets fired, and we're at Fort Sumner. Okay?
Right.
I mean, we're at Lexington.
Yeah.
If one thing happens, you can't stop. It's Wounded Knee. So I that is the next step, is violence. I'm telling you it. Look, and here's the dirty little secret.
Yeah.
Because behind the scenes, I think one of the things that you've seen the Biden administration waver on supporting Israel, despite their rhetoric before that, which was weird because the president would say something and 2 hours later the vice president would contradict him. But if you look at what has happened, I think a month or two ago, Biden and Netanyahu had a conversation, and Netanyahu's not going to get bullied around by Biden.
No.
He does. He goes, look, I don't care about your reelection. You worry about your own country.
Yeah.
But I think they've known for months that this was going to escalate.
Yeah.
And I think that's when the not knowing what to do, and the worst thing you can do is play both sides. That's the absolute worst thing. You do nothing but piss off everybody.
Yeah.
And honestly, the Jewish people and the protesters, Biden's almost united them in hatred of him.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Well, there was a rally where you had the anti-Biden people and the anti-Israel people and the pro-Israel people shouting back and forth about
let's go Brandon or something back and forth.
Right.
I mean, and now you look at what's starting to happen, because we know what's been happening.
Yeah.
Israel's been prepping, training, preparing for this. They have to go into Rafah. It's the one part of southern Gaza controlled by Hamas. They have to go in there. It's not going to be quick because, like I said, they use civilians to hide behind. It's going to be house-to-house combat.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be done in a week.
No, it's going to take a while. If you've ever seen like Black Hawk Down, that movie, they had to do house-to-house combat
Somalia.
In Mogadishu. And it is very harrowing.
Ugly.
Yeah.
It's going to be ugly. And this is going to escalate, and I can't believe the president and his team just can't seem to get it together on what to do. I'm baffled that they threaten to hold back weapons. They threaten what? They vote present at the UN. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even understand when Congress says, here, we're giving you money to do this on behalf of Israel. And
that Biden asked for, by the way. I'll throw that out there.
And then he just goes, not doing it.
Well, now the latest thing is that he's reversed himself again.
Because he was going to get impeached.
Yeah, well, they're still going to move forward with something about it, because this is what Trump did to Ukraine, allegedly.
Allegedly,
but I don't believe that was really the truth.
No, it wasn't.
So, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, you asked for this, you got it, and now you're playing games with it while, people's lives. And by the way, what about the hostages that are still there? Some of them are Americans.
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody realize protesting the Hamas people that they've got Americans being held hostage?
Apparently not, or they don't care, or maybe they're not Europeans or Africans right? Yeah. They are Jewish Americans, right?
I believe
for the most part.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's okay.
It's okay
eyes.
Up there. Yeah. It's okay. It's no big deal.
Right.
So Jay, I want to ask you something. Play this out with me. What happens here? What happens all summer? What happens at the Democratic convention? What happens? It's going to be good days and bad days in this war. Ukraine, there's no end in sight.
Well, it's going to get worse. I mean, you've got the professional agitators, right? They're not going anywhere. I mean, they're using like the same playbook that they used for Occupy Wall Street, and you've got Antifa, and you've got these other professional protesters, plus you've got these college kids who are roped into this now, and they have nothing better to do. They're not going to be in class, right?
Yeah.
So
cancel classes because there's protests.
Camp out on the lawn of the local university.
Where are these people's parents?
This is and I have to apologize. This is our generation's issue. Our parents were stricter.
I was going to say this straight out.
Yeah.
If my dad was cutting a check for me to go to college and I was sitting at an encampment, he'd have physically come there and bodily put me in class.
Yes.
And said, "No, dude, this is not what we do in the real life."
Yeah.
There'd have been no if he might have dragged me out by my ears.
Right.
I'd have been afraid to make that phone call.
So here's the problem, though. With Generation X, we have not been strict with our kids.
No,
we've let them run wild, and we've given them participation trophies and all of that. And that is a big part of the problem.
It's hard for me because I'm not a parent. So when I criticize parents, people, look at me like, "Oh, come on, dude, you're not a parent." Well, I was a kid at one time, and I mean, I knew what I could get away with. Even when I was 20, I could get away with some stuff.
Right.
There's just a difference. You're right, though. It's like every generation it has changed to let the inmates run the asylum. I mean, you've told stories about being a teacher and hands off, can't do nothing.
Right.
I think that there are. I honestly think there are parents out there who just their kids are their whole life, and that's a good thing and a bad thing to me.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, okay, I know your kids' needs and wants come first, but needs come first, I should say. But you're the adult in the room.
Yeah.
Not them. And it's just kind of, there's no 8-year-old that needs a cell phone.
No.
Sorry, there isn't. Okay?
No.
There's no kid needs a TV in their room.
No.
There's just certain things that just are tried and true that shouldn't change.
Right.
And they have. They've changed big time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of, and I know some of them personally. Some of them are friends of mine. It's like, here, take your video games. Go play video games. I can't miss my Netflix show. It's like, wait a minute, what is that?
Yeah.
And
that's something I've always been pretty strict about. I'm probably seen as more strict than most parents.
That's just hard to believe, Jay.
Because
you don't even swear.
What does that have to do with being strict?
Oh, I don't know.
I put up boundaries, It's like, okay.
Because my definition of strict is when I use a 4-letter word, I mean it.
Yeah. But this is all you got to do. It's like, all right, you can play video games. You get an hour. Then you're going outside. Okay, maybe you can have another hour later or something like that, but we'll see. You know,
I remember my sister
going-
was time on the phone. Remember
Yeah.
that?
Oh yeah.
She was mad because my parents wouldn't get call waiting. Call waiting. I mean,
Right.
talk about technology advancing. But go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
But I mean, that's it, you know, and we run around and these kids are spoiled and they think the world revolves around them. I mean, look, perfect example. These protesters, there's one of them that's like, it's my birthday and it's not fair because I should be able to have birthday cake. And the protesters who were trying to make demands and wanted hammocks and wanted water and vegan food. And did you hear all this?
No.
Oh, yeah. They were making demands. These are the things that we want to, you know, and it's just crazy stuff. You know, vegan food, I'm sorry, you can have gruel.
No, you can get a job, go to the supermarket,
leave.
and buy what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
How about that?
They were complaining because they were on a hunger strike. You chose to go on the hunger strike, you idiot. You know.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I mean, but I don't know. I'm just curious what. I mean, if your kid was part of a protest claiming, I mean, I would be beside myself in anger.
Oh,
just beside myself. So where are the parents of these people? I mean, I don't get it. And I sit there and I listen to people, talk about things like hate crimes and all that. Well, let me throw this out there.
Yeah.
Why is it any less hate depending on who the victim is? Why does that change it?
Right.
It
shouldn't. You know, if you say if you disagree with somebody that is of a certain protected class, you're a racist or you're a misogynist or you're a transphobe or you're whatever, just for disagreeing with somebody, for having a different opinion. But you can shout death to the Jews all day long and it's
nothing
fine.
happens. Absolutely nothing. So let's look at it like this. Start with college for a minute.
Yeah.
So many reforms have to happen at the college level. Where does it start? Just take college, forget the protesters for a minute.
Okay.
Changing college. Whether that's affordability, whether that's DEI, whether that's what has to change there?
Man, there's so many things that have to change.
But everything has to start with like step 1, step 2, step 3.
And I guess, are you talking about what do the universities have to do, or what do like parents need to figure out? Because from a parental point of view, stop sending your kids to those schools.
Okay, easier said than done.
Market solutions, right?
Yeah, easier said than done, because I would agree that sounds great, but some, jobs require a degree. Some jobs require a certain amount of school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to say, well, if your kid wants to be a lawyer, you can't just go screw college.
Right.
So let's start from the university and or government point of view. What has to happen there first?
Well, I think government should stop funding the universities. I mean, that's part of the reason they're so expensive anyways. And they can afford 6-figure DEI people and millions of dollars in a DEI department. Stop funding these schools. Make them exist solely on tuition.
Okay, let's assume I don't think that's step 1. I think that's one of them. How about tenure?
Yeah.
That's something.
That's a tough one because it's been flipped on its head. It was meant to be a good thing that protected professors from, and
you're
they were able
supposed
to
to
have
earn
a
it.
variety
Remember,
of. You're right.
Yeah.
Able to have a variety of opinions, right? Except all it's done is entrench really bad Marxists,
Right.
and and you can't get a conservative employed at a college.
But that's part of, to me, that's part of what's wrong. How do you change anything as long as these professors have tenure?
There's got to be ways to get rid of some of these bad
It's
professors.
not easy, though. I mean, yeah. How about another thing the government can do is have relevant majors
Well, that would help.
in
We are not
universities
gonna-
too.
We're not going to fund gay studies. We're not going to fund, women's studies. These things don't do anything.
No, they create activists. That's what they do. That's what they do.
But what they'll do at the universities then is, we're going to make this a history or humanities major, and then you can specialize in, that's all they'll do. They'll shift things around. I mean,
maybe, but like in the high school stage, do they do that stuff there? I mean, I just come back to maybe if they were defunded and they had to exist out in the real world, maybe that major thing would take care of itself, because people would be like, okay, wait a second here. If I have to pay all of this, I'm not going to go to, would it take care of itself? Market forces.
Right. Yeah, I mean, market forces, I think, would be a huge driver. I mean, people go to college to earn a degree so they can get a job. If these corporations would say, you know what? I'm tired of hiring people.
I was just going to go to corporations next.
I'm tired of hiring people based on what they are instead of who they are. And you know what? We're not going to accept anybody that has, they could make it a list of these degrees, or they could make it a list of these colleges or whatever. And they could decide to start doing what's in their own best interest rather than playing the game. But they think that they're going to, by playing the game, be the ones who aren't cut out of the final picture. We're doing DEI. They're not gonna squeeze us out.
Yeah. But I mean, if enough corporations got together and said, look, we're not going to have a DEI department. We're not going to hire people to do this crap when we don't think we need it. We're doing it for image reasons, and no one cares about it. No one likes it. No one wants it, except for these government fools.
Right.
If there were no jobs, this is the one thing. You go out and get a degree in that. Government and corporations are hiring for it.
Yeah.
They actually are.
Absolutely.
So it's like, okay, you're going to hire a DEI specialist and pay them six figures.
Yeah.
And if corporations are so awful.
They are. And if I was in HR, I would retool my interview process to take in different types of questions, like how do you problem solve? How do you deal with disappointment? All of these things to gauge how mature somebody is in their thinking, and to try and figure out, okay, is this person going to be a pain in my neck, or are they actually going to be a problem solver and try to do what's right for the company?
Yeah, the problem is corporations, take it from me personally. I went through this with a large corporation I worked for.
Yeah.
The last thing they want is problem solvers.
True.
What they want are conformists.
Yes, they do.
They want people who talk about doing big things, but never actually do them.
Oh, absolutely.
Doing them gets you fired.
Yes. Yes, it does. When I worked for another large corporation for, about 15 years, I remember starting a position. Was I starting a position, or was it just something I received while I was at a position? They gave me this book called Who Moved My Cheese, which was all about becoming a conformist, which was all about, not complaining about change and just going along with it. And I could never. I did finally force myself to read it, but I was so cynical about it that I saw it for what it was. But there's so many people that lap that stuff up, and they're like, "Oh, that's great stuff. We got to make sure that we just nod our heads." And I would sit in meetings and I would watch people as people are talking and saying absolutely nothing, or saying things that were really, to me, were like some of the most dumb things that I could never agree with, and I would see people sitting in the meeting nodding their head. Yep.
But you know what they're waiting. You know what they're waiting for?
What?
The one person to come out and say,
"Yeah,
don't you people realize this is like the dumbest thing as it's coming out of your mouth?"
Yeah.
That's what they're. See, that was me.
Yeah.
And I didn't hesitate to say what I thought.
Yeah.
And I realize now that hard work meant nothing.
Right.
Loyalty to the company meant nothing. I shouldn't say it meant nothing, but
right. Loyalty to the company means something in the sense that you're loyal to your bosses. You're not loyal to do the best job,
right?
Work the hardest.
Let me say something too, and I'm talking about Best Buy when I worked there, and I will say it out loud. And what are they going to do? Who cares? Okay, I worked there for 11 years, and I'm going to tell you something. My direct bosses were great people. One of them still a friend of mine today, even though I haven't worked there for 12 years. And I loved the company. I flew all over the country. I worked days, I worked nights. But if somebody wasn't doing their job, I always looked at that as money out of my pocket.
Right.
I always looked at that as, you're making more money than me and doing a quarter of the work. I'm going to make sure somebody knows about it.
Yeah.
And you're my enemy now.
Right.
You think you don't like me now? You can be, and I couldn't bully my way. I could have done it smarter, but ultimately I'd still be gone from there. The corporate atmosphere was so bad, and I hate saying that because there's so many people there I liked and respected.
Yeah.
There really were. But I totally see it now about how, you know what? It was easier to just conform. It's easier to just go punch in and punch out.
Yeah.
When they stopped saying Merry Christmas, I spoke up.
Did you? That's good.
Yeah, and I said Merry Christmas to people.
Huh.
I didn't care what they told me.
Yeah.
I said, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I'm not going to let you profit off this holiday and then pretend it doesn't exist, you son of a bitch. I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It really changed when Dick Schultz, the original, because under him, it just wasn't the monster that it became. It became very corporate without that sort of, leadership there. And so, but I would say that. I would say Happy Thanksgiving to people. Who cares if you don't celebrate it? Who's offended by saying that?
Yeah.
Nobody. But
how dare you give me well wishes?
Yeah. How dare we? Why are we closed on December 25th? But I can't say it out loud.
Right.
So it got, and the company changed a little bit. They walked that back a little bit, but the employees were part of it, and so were some of the customers. So I feel the complaints about it.
Yeah.
So to their, I guess, credit, they did sort of listen, but the corporate diversity, we can't be this or that or say this or that, really did win out in the end, and it was tough. It's tough to work in that environment.
Yeah.
It just really was. So I sort of get it. I mean, I sort of get how we give mixed messages to young people.
Yeah.
We do that all the time. And I don't know how to fix it. But I don't know if college is fixable. I don't know if the public schools are fixable. I think bombing them and starting over is the way to fix it.
I think, and we talked about this on this show long time ago with the homeschool pod idea being a way to go, where you take like churches and places like that. And if each community church would bring in kids from the community and help support that to get kids out of public education, I think we stand a chance. And there are some groups that are starting to do that with micro schools.
Well, technology is the great equalizer.
Right.
It allows us to do a podcast. It allows you to make an album. It allows me to write a book. Yeah, I mean, technology's changed a lot of that stuff.
Yes,
for the better, and I hope it continues. I just wonder how much longer it can go on. I mean, how much longer can these universities exist the way they're existing? And it's fine to. Why is it we only demand change when there's, Hamas protesters somewhere? Why did it come to this?
Right.
I mean, I remember sitting at watching those hearings with MIT and Penn and Harvard and listening to these three bozos try to claim that anti-Semitism really wasn't that bad, and you had to take comments into context, and we can't do anything unless there's action. And I'm going, how did you people get this job? Obviously you check the right boxes.
Yeah.
But the real question becomes, how is that possible that that's the attitude at your school?
Mm-hmm.
How? You mean it didn't start and end with those presidents?
No.
It was there.
It's been there a long time. It's when you had these radicals from the 60s that grew up, went into education, and got jobs and got into the university.
But that's what I'm saying. It's so rooted there. I honestly think that the only way this is going to change is to come up with alternative schools.
Yeah.
I mean, like you talked about the pods for combating the public schools. I think it's got to happen for college too,
and I think it will. You've got like Hillsdale College.
Well, that's one. Yep.
That's one, and I don't know enough about what the curriculum is like, but down in Florida, I can't remember the name of it, but like there are some people that are they're not conservatives, they're liberals, but that's. They took over, or they started a school down there, and actually there are some conservatives, I think, that got on the board for that one, and they started it with the idea that they weren't going to teach kids what to think, but how to think, and so.
But that's the thing with honest liberals you can work with,
right?
There's the political liberals, the elites,
yeah,
and then there's everybody else who I don't know that they've realized what happens. Maybe they are. Maybe they're starting to.
Yeah, I mean that's like why this university was started, and so it's I don't know. Do we stand a chance? I guess it's going to really end up being the parents who say, yes, I'm going to send my kids there, or I'm not going to send my kids there. And it's going to be, can we get enough people in government that are going to actually put the thumb screws to these universities and tell them to knock it off, or they're going to get their funding cut? I mean, that is really the only language that they're going to speak, is not being able to have the funding to operate.
Well, you're probably right on that. Unfortunately, money talks.
Right.
And I'll tell you something else. The endowments are important.
Yeah.
And I think pressure needs to be put on these rich people.
Yeah.
And maybe that's like the tax system is something that has to be tackled. You can't just write off a bunch of endowments so you don't get taxed. I mean,
right.
I mean, but the whole point is some of these colleges wouldn't exist without $1 million endowment by somebody.
See, but that's the thing. I mean, there's a million places as a rich person you can put your money. Why give it to your alma mater if your alma mater is flipping nuts?
Because I think that Why do they do it?
I mean, is it worth it to have
I think
a dormitory named
I was
after
just
you?
gonna
Is it
say,
really
it's an ego thing? I think it's an ego.
I mean,
thing.
buy 1,000 wells to drill water in Africa. You'll feel better about yourself.
No kidding. That's probably true. Yeah, it's so bad. But you know what? I'll tell you what. I don't hope for chaos. And as much as I want Joe Biden to lose, I don't want what I think's going to happen in Chicago. I mean, I don't want it. It's a bad look for our country. I'm embarrassed by what goes on these college campuses. I'm embarrassed to have a president and governors who do nothing about it, who foment it, who play both sides. To me, it's just, I find the whole thing, I was trying to think of who said this. It's a few weeks ago, but talked about President Reagan. He was when he was governor of California, and the protests stopped when he became governor. It was sort of you want to go give a gathering, that's fine. You set foot on these college campuses, and there's going to be consequences, and there were. And I think that's another thing these kids don't learn is they don't face any consequences. Mm-hmm. Go back to the riots in Minneapolis. Seen any of them put on trial or any of them?
Oddly enough. No.
I have any coverage of that?
None from the Chaz area of Seattle.
It's just amazing how they destroyed buildings, they hurt people, they destroyed their property.
But yet January 6th.
Burnt a police precinct
they're
down.
Still sitting in prison without a trial, many of them.
Well, they'll be sitting in January 21st.
Right.
2025, they won't be in prison anymore.
Thank goodness.
But yeah, it is. They are political prisoners. But where's the accountability? I mean, if you can burn a police precinct down and walk away with no consequences, what are you learning? You're learning that those tactics work.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see what happens with all these people being arrested right now. They go home with no dinner?
Yeah.
No Nintendo for a night or whatever the kids do now. No VCR, no beta. I don't know. I mean, what's the consequences of it? Are you expelled from this university for chanting, "We hate Jews"?
Right. You should.
How about your scholarship?
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk
your
about
student debt loan?
Hate crimes. If somebody went and scrawled an epithet on. I mean, you've heard of it, too, where people scrawled an epithet in the bathroom in a stall, and all of a sudden there's a huge uproar. Well, this is a lot bigger than that. Why is there nothing? All of a sudden it's free speech.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, that's... Jonathan Turley put it really well on Fox News.
Yeah.
He said, your free speech is free speech, but there's a line where that ends and intimidation to somebody else begins.
Right.
And that line is being moved every minute of every day.
Your rights end when they intersect with somebody else's rights.
Yeah, or safety or something like that. I mean, but like I said, we would never allow, chants we hate gay people.
No.
Death to gays. We would never allow that. Nor should we.
Exactly.
I would speak out against anything like that. But if it's, depends on the context. Depends on the action.
Right.
We'll have to get Israel to back down now.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to say one last thing here before we wrap up.
Okay.
That I never, ever hope for bad things to happen. I never hope that things get screwed up so somebody I like will win an election.
Right.
It's not worth it. The country's bigger than that. And it's bigger than one election. It's bigger than who I like or dislike. But I'm going to tell you something right now. Can you imagine to me Joe Biden getting reelected?
Yeah, we won't have a country.
Just stop and think about that for a second.
We will not have a country. It's done at that point. We will not survive another 4 years with this man.
I don't know if he wins. I don't know. I'm gonna need help, Jay.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to sign me up for some sort of. I'll need serious therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I think I don't think I can do it. If he is at the helm for another 4 years, I don't see what's left. We're gonna bring in another 10 million, 15 million illegal immigrants.
We'll destroy.
They're going to get voting rights.
Yes, they all will. They're going to get that anyway. In certain states, anyhow. I mean, that's the whole point of bringing them in is to, in the long term, make them citizens.
Whether it's flipping a red state or upping the number of electors in.
Well, I've said this before. What's holding back a blue dictatorship is Florida and Texas.
Yeah.
And we're lucky that Florida is getting redder. And Texas has, despite the efforts, has not really moved.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is that like Hispanics go to Texas and they go, I kind of like no income tax.
Yeah.
Or it's where conservative policy has really won them over.
Right.
So I don't know. Another 4 years of Biden? I don't know, Jay.
There's nothing left at that point. Everything we have will be in Ukraine, and there's not going to be electricity. There's not going to be.
Are we painting the doomsday scenario good enough?
Well, we're going to shut down natural gas. We're going to shut down gasoline. Everything's going to be shoved into electric, and we don't have the support system for our grids to handle it.
We aren't close.
And then they're shutting down power plants.
Yeah.
And not building nuclear power plants to replace them. I don't know what we're doing.
How about
building windmills.
We haven't built an oil refinery, and
that doesn't matter because we won't have a oil reserve to.
We don't have one right now. The strategic reserves are still empty.
Yep, and there's no plans to fill them.
Can't fill them because filling them, the government buying them, Jay, is going to up the price now because the 30 million barrels are going to be.
So instead of buying it more expensive, let's just let it sit empty.
Yeah.
Just let it sit. Why would we need it?
It's all about somebody's reelection.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes when gas is $4.50 a gallon.
Well, it's already $6 in California.
Yeah.
All right. Are we depressing you enough? Jay, take the reins. I'm not even introducing you. Just take the reins. Say something. Get me out of my rut. I just talked about Biden getting reelected. That's got to depress anybody listening to this.
That's the introduction I get after 4 weeks off.
Well, I'd say styling and profiling, but yeah, after 4 weeks off, just let it rip.
All right. Oh, goodness. It's nice to know that some things just don't change, huh? You know, we could take a month off. Things will be worser now than they were before. So, whatever. What are we going to do? We see a tyrannical government that is before us now, and they are giving us every reason to stand up and to let them know how we feel. Trouble is, I think most of us aren't doing that. Whether we're looking at a federal issue or we're looking at state issues, and I think in a future episode we'll get into the Equal Rights Amendment here in Minnesota and some other things that have been going on. I don't know. We've talked about like the Human Rights Act that passed through the House and the Senate. We and other things that have been happening in the state with gun control and it's just amazing to see. The left is eating itself, but somehow still the right isn't standing up enough to make it count. to be able to take all of that energy that they're spending with whether the left and the ultra left or people who just are fighting for different ideas. I was at the Capitol not too long ago. It was, goodness, now about a week and a half ago. I was at the Capitol, and you had MCCL, which are Minnesotans concerned for life, that were there when this ERA bill it went through a public hearing, and then it went into the Senate chambers, and they were on one side of the staircase at the Capitol, and over on the other side you had the ERA people, and the ERA people were getting so loud in their chanting and so obnoxious that they were disturbing the Native Americans in the rotunda that were trying to take their land back. And so you had two Democrat groups that were getting under each other's skin because they're just going nuts. They're trying to get everything that they can get. Well, they have control, And before I had mentioned, Chris Fink, or Lee Fink, as he wants to be known now, went to Bethel University, and that's the kind of education he came out with. He got elected and is now turning the entire state of Minnesota on its head. And for some reason, everybody up there, every Democrat is listening to this guy on what it is we need to do to make sure that trans people are welcomed and taken care of and given every resource and special treatment. And you know what? He's also doing it at the peril of religion and religious schools. And are we doing anything about it? A few of us. For the Human Rights Act, there were about 100 of us pastors that went down there to the Capitol and made our presence felt. And we stood there as all of the members of the House of Representatives walked past us, and we were praying and we were singing. And they still ignored us. Now, they have since reversed that. They did add the religious exemption back into the human rights bill, and it's sitting on the governor's desk, who has, as of yet, to sign this. And part of this is because the Equal Rights Amendment is going to strip all those rights away again anyways, because it's going to go into the Constitution. We'll talk about that at a later date. Anyways, there aren't enough. When I showed up to the Capitol last week, yeah, there were a handful of people there that were pro-life, and where's everybody else? I don't know. And there were other events that were going on throughout the week with signing like a coalition of states that's pro-life, and there's just all these disjointed things, and we've got to bring our efforts together and do more, because if we don't, freedom doesn't come back once we lose it. Once we lose it, it's gone. To try and get that back, to try and change our Constitution back, to try and get rid of the laws that are passed that do all of this harm, people don't have the stomach for it because they don't want to be seen as the bad guy. Well, let me tell you, if you stand or if you take ground back, you'll be seen as a hero. The time is now. We need heroes, heroines, to stand up and to be counted. We need people in their communities, in their churches, in their cities, in their school districts, in your counties, with the state, to stand up and be counted, to be communicating with these people via email, via phone calls, via letters, to make your voice heard. They should not be able to go anywhere without hearing about how important these things are to us. And that if they pass it, they are doing it in the face of numerous opposition. They have to know it. If we remain silent, that's on us. They can pass this stuff, and they know that there are people against it, but they might not know the volume of people against it. We have to make it known. We can do this, but we cannot do it by just getting a couple people involved, by resting back on our laurels, by not speaking out. No, we have to take control of our own schedules, of our fear, and we have to make a difference. We have to spend our time wisely, and we have to be so driven that it doesn't matter what gets in our way, it doesn't matter what scares us, we're willing to go through it. Are we willing to go to jail? Are we willing to be beat? Are we willing to be sprayed with fire hoses? Are we willing to go through things that Martin Luther King and those people in the 60s that went through that revolution? Are we willing to undergo those things, to be hated? Or do we want to be liked so bad that it's worth selling out our time for you to stand? Now is the time for you to get in the game. Now is the time for you to run for a local office, because you can change these things if you stand up. So what are you going to do? Get a hold of us, commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. If you haven't been to the new website yet, go see the new website, commsolutionsmn.com. And you can get a hold of us through the website as well. And there's lots of resources. And we're putting some awesome stuff together. We're going to keep working on that. You can best be assured. But you want to take a run at this and make some change this year, we're your guys. We've done it before. We'll do it again. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn. Get to work.